The Dash network is considering a major change in the way its governance and funding system works, and it could go in about two possible ways. Unless you're an active part of the Dash community, you probably completely missed that something major is going on. But the Dash network is coming together to decide on an improvement to the way its governance system and its funding model works. And there's actually two competing proposals for this. One of these is being presented by Dash Core Group, the main development arm of the Dash ecosystem, and was going to be the only proposed change going forward. But a group of masternodes, a group of investors in the ecosystem, came together and decided to create a competing proposal that does a lot of the same things, but with a few important tweaks. Now, I'm making this short little summary video for a general audience so you can kind of see what's going on. But this isn't necessarily the entirety of all the arguments and the nuance or anything. So if your particular point or angle that you care the most about wasn't included, please don't get mad at me. Just please read the actual proposals, everyone, and all the comments and discussion if you're really that interested in it. For everyone else, let's go ahead. Both proposals have one big thing in common. They're both about changing the way the treasury or Dash's fund is allocated and kind of the way that shows up. So let me give you a quick recap of the way things work now. Right now, miners and masternodes split the block reward or the new coins that are created. On top of that, there's a potential 10% of all the new coins created that could go towards something called the treasury, which is how the development team's funded, how marketing outreach is funded, how everything is funded. Now, right now, if all of that money is spent, then it all gets created and there you go. If any of it doesn't get spent, those coins simply aren't created. Now, if you know anything about economics and scarcity, you'll know that not being created means that everyone else's Dash gets more valuable because it's more scarce. And so anytime you spend money by inflating the supply a little bit, then everyone kind of feels the effects of that. The problem is people don't really see this very accurately. People tend to see the 10% available as just free money. And why wouldn't we spend it? Why wouldn't we create it? And so the first thing that both these proposals does is it makes the coins created regardless of what happens. And if they're spent on treasury proposals, they're spent on treasury proposals. But if they're not, then they get sent to the miners and masternodes. So therefore, when you actually save money by not spending it on something, you actually see it. So you're actually rewarded in a real world kind of a way that you can see when you decide to save money and not spend. And this is huge because this has the implications of making masternodes a whole lot more smart about spending decisions. There have been quite a few low value proposals that have floated through and gotten a lot of money and really haven't gotten anywhere, a lot of waste. And this one thing can really cut down on waste and realign economic incentives to make everything work better. The second thing that both proposals have in common is the more flexible treasury. Right now it's capped at 10%, but both of these proposals would raise that to 20%. Now this doesn't mean that there's twice as much spending. The raising it to a potential 20% is with the expectation that when masternodes see that they're spending their own money on proposals, when that happens, they will actually spend a lot less. So typically it wouldn't just be at a 10%, it would be below 10%, even though they could potentially spend up to 20%. But because it's their own money and they see that it's their own money, then you won't really see that happen. The reason for making that cap 20% instead of 10% is just in case, say you have a flash crash in the price and you still need to keep funding essential services like development, or what happens if you have a big product rollout and you need a lot of money for a big marketing campaign. Rather than just cap it out at 10% and then just spend that month after month, it might make more sense to just pay for one thing right up front when you can afford it, and then later on, scale back the spending. Kind of the way the real world works, right? You don't just have your salary every month to spend. If you don't spend it, it's left over for next month, etc. And so you can make a big purchase one month and then just live lean for other months. And that flexibility is more real world, and the lack of that has been a little bit of a problem for Dash in the past. Now let's get into the specifics behind the two proposals and what makes them actually different. Previous to these proposals, a governance proposal was passed to adjust the non-treasury portion of Dash's block reward from 50-50 to miners and masternodes respectively to 60-40. This was done to stabilize some unstable effects on Dash's market price, and may have the added benefit of optimizing the network as masternodes take on a greater role with Dash platform. With these two new proposals, the focus is on how treasury spending affects the revenue of miners and masternodes. Under the first plan, proposed by Dash Core Group, the costs incurred by the treasury spending would be distributed 60% to masternodes and 40% to miners. This would mean that the rewards received by both groups on a given month would be variable depending on treasury spending, but both groups' percentage share of the non-treasury block reward would remain fixed. Spending made for the benefit of the entire network would therefore cost the entire network proportionally, even though masternodes would be solely responsible for making these decisions. The second plan, dubbed the MNO plan as it was conceived by a group of masternode operators, gives the miners a fixed 36% of the block reward no matter what the treasury spends, while putting 100% of the cost of proposals on masternodes. This would mean that both the total rewards and the percentage of non-treasury rewards would be variable for masternodes, but miners would enjoy a fixed percentage of the total rewards, though a variable percentage of the non-treasury rewards. Masternodes, who are solely responsible for making spending decisions, would incur the entire cost of these decisions, even when these decisions may potentially benefit other segments of the network as well. If treasury spending equals 10% of the block reward on a given month, then both these plans turn out exactly the same. 54% of the total rewards to masternodes, 36% for miners. Where the plans practically differ is what happens when spending is more or less than 10%. If it's more, miners benefit more under the MNO plan and less under the Dash Core Group plan. While if it's less, they're safer under Dash Core Group's plan and earn less under the MNO plan. In both cases, masternodes, the decision makers, are incentivized to be frugal with spending as they will directly feel the costs of proposals. The question is whether the MNO plan makes them even more beneficially frugal, or if it makes them too frugal and even great proposals have a hard time passing. So there you have it. What do you think of these? Do you think one is better than the other? Do you have any kind of opinion whatsoever? Do you think they're both stupid? Please drop something in the comments and let me know. And if you do care about this issue, please make yourself known in public forums, especially if you have a Dash vote of any kind. If you're a masternode, if you delegate for someone, whatever, please vote by the end of the month, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm really excited to see how this thing turns out, honestly. It's a pretty historic movement in cryptocurrency governance, and it's another installment in Dash's history of successfully making decisions as a decentralized group without having just one party responsible for all the decisions, or without constant infighting and splits and other things. So yeah, let's just see how this thing turns out.